Meeting to order. Good evening. My name is Joe McGivern. I chair the Holyoke City Council's Finance Subcommittee. Members of the committee, to my right, Councilor Peter Tallman. To my left, Councilor Kevin Jourdain. To his left, Councilor Will Pello. And we are going to be joined by our fifth member, Juan Anderson Burgos, online. Don't see him at the moment, but he is scheduled to be here through Zoom. We are being televised live through the public access channel. We are being streamed live, a little delay, and we also are being recorded through Zoom. Because the committee is going to be hybrid this evening, I will ask the committee to make this motion to take a roll call vote that all the purposes of this meeting will be applicable to all the motions to remove items from the table, suspend the rules, and package items together unless there's an objection from anybody.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. We technically have to say roll call. Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Jourdain?
Yes.
Councilor Pello?
Yes.
Councilor McGivern? Yes. Councilor Anderson Burgos? I think he's trying to get online. We'll record him when he gets on. That takes care of any of the mundane motions, so we don't have to do a roll call. Most of our votes this evening, the final votes will be, with the roll call if necessary. So we have with us items 1 and 2, if we could, together. Our OPID Director, Aaron Vega.
Motion to take item number 1 and 2 off the table for discussion.
Motion made and taken to take item number 1 and 2 off the table, suspend the rules to take up together for discussion, and then vote on them separately. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item 1 is that in accordance with Mass General Laws 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of the Executive Office Housing and Economic Development Fiscal Year 2023 Urban Grant Program. It's a $25,000 grant with no match that we would authorize the establishment of a fund and or other method appropriate for the accounting of receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with the said grant. Item number 2 is also within accordance with Mass General Law, Section 44, Section 53A. City Council accepts the provisions of the Executive Office of Housing, Economic Development, Urban Grant Program, $25,000, no match. I'm reading number 1, so maybe if I read number 2 and said, we accept the provisions of the New England Foundations for the Arts 2023, making it public for mass municipalities, a $15,000 grant, no match, same idea, set up a fund, and then other method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures. They're both off the table for discussion. We can vote on them separately if necessary, but for discussion. Aaron, thank you. Would you walk us through each grant?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. And both these grants are just another example of the OPED team kind of trying to fire on all cylinders. The first grant, the Urban Agenda Grant, was part of the one-stop application that we did last year. This is a grant related to the Rapid Recovery Program, which you all should have a copy of, but if not, we can always get it to you. It's online as well. And this one is Small Business Capital Solutions. So one of the things that we all know, starting a small business is hard, and having capital to help these small businesses, particularly BIPOC and women-owned businesses, is critical to have some startup funds, especially when you're looking in Holyoke and we don't necessarily have turnkey storefronts. So this money can be used eventually, when you start doing fundraising, can eventually be used for build-outs as well as capital for the operation of the business. This $25,000 grant will kind of get us started. We've got to figure out a different sort of a mechanism for raising funds. We've been working with Dr. Lomax Campbell, which was our consultant on the RRP, and we're having meetings with different national sort of fundraising, similar to crowdfunding, but much different, much more robust. And so we feel like with the story of Holyoke and all the partners that we have lined up, and of course focusing on BIPOC and women-owned businesses, we might be able to sort of capitalize on some funding outside the immediate area. So this $25,000 grant would be to start to set up that infrastructure, working of course with our partners in the grant, E4All, the Chamber, HCC, Mass Hire, etc. But we're hoping to actually only use a little bit of those funds to get the consultant and get all that stuff together and actually have some of that money to actually get to businesses. So But we've got to do all that due diligence now. And so, again, there's no match to this. And this is part, again, of the Rapid Recovery Program, which is try to revitalize High Street, which obviously is in line with everything we're doing with the TDI and other work we're doing on High Street. So I can always send the full application if you want to read 15 pages of it, but happy to answer any questions.
Aaron, any examples of businesses that have taken advantage of this, or will be taking advantage of it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so not yet because we don't have it, but we've been looking at other examples in other states and other cities. There's a program called Kiva, which again is similar to like a crowdfunding, but it's much more robust. We've met with the consultants and the principals from Kiva. This would be the kind of thing where someone coming out of, say, E4All and is looking to start their business could get on this platform and start to hopefully, match dollar for dollar their fundraising. And so again, if we had, 15,000 of that 25,000 to kind of grease the wheels and get that money going, that could be helpful. So we've seen examples in Massachusetts and across the state, obviously not in Holyoke because we don't have this program yet or something like it. One of the challenges that we see, when it comes to small businesses, particularly in BIPOC and women-owned businesses, is that network that's not often there for a lot of startups. You and I may have family and friends that we can start asking money for and would actually invest in our idea. Not everybody has that. And so this will be able to sort of give that person that sort of network on a much grander scale. So we've seen examples, again, across the state and other cities as well in Massachusetts, but not here in Holyoke.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilor Powell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So is this money going to be specifically for businesses on High Street, or do we know? I know it's kind of early, but do we kind of know? No. Thank you.
No, it'd be small businesses in Holyoke. We're not necessarily specifically High Street. I just use that as an example since there's so much activity on High Street right now. But no, this could be throughout the city. So there's no designation of the funds location-wise. So if we were to set up a sort of small business solutions fundraising tool, it can be used for anybody anywhere in the city, and not just BIPOC or women-owned. It can be for anybody. I'm just saying those examples usually have more challenges in raising funds. So there's no restrictions on where the business can be located with this grant or with this program once we get up and running.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I make a motion to be adopted. Second.
We have a couple of city councilors online. Just want to recognize them. Don't see any hands up, or do we have a hand up? Councilor Maldonado? Or are we just saying hi?
No, I'm here just following along.
Thank you and welcome. At the moment, that's it for councilors. Mayor Garcia he's on Zoom. I'm not going to say he's in the building, but those backgrounds can be deceiving. Welcome, Mayor.
I'm in the building.
He actually is in the building.
Let me
Welcome.
know if I have to come over.
Okay, Chair, entertain a motion.
I made the motion to adopt.
Motion made second to adopt, refer this to the city council for next Tuesday's full city council meeting. Councilor Anderson Burgos hasn't joined us, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Aaron, item number 2, New England Foundation for Arts.
Yes. So again, a big shout out. I think I have some staff on here. I think that Jennifer Key is with us, who's obviously been key in doing the rapid recovery work, and Stephanie Colon, our new mass emotion coordinator, who's been with us just about 3.5 months, maybe 4 months. And so this grant was put out, and I shuffled it over to Ileana, our senior project manager, and Stephanie, and they took the reins. This is a grant to enhance more public art. And so that's something we've been working on. Obviously, as you all know, it's a big boost for us when it comes to tourism and attraction and getting things going here in the city and bringing people to downtown and throughout the city. What's interesting about this grant, and I'll give an overview, and maybe Stephanie, if she wants to chime in, could kind of give more. It comes in 3 parts. I think there's 5,000. Stephanie and Ileana will take a training, and they get $5,000. It's going to help them to the parameters of putting RFPs, how to attract local artists. And then there'll be $10,000 that can actually be used for the art. So that's pretty great to actually have money that can actually go to the project, not just consultants, right? And so we know that also working with the 150th and some of the conversations we had with Mayor Garcia, this piece of art could be very specific to 150th. It could be kind of one of those places that become one of those symbols as people celebrate the 150th next year. So again, no match on this. It's right in line with what we're doing with a lot of the public art. And again, Stephanie is on the call if you have additional questions or if she wants to add anything.
Thank you. Welcome,
Hi.
Stephanie, and welcome, Jennifer. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, hi, my name's Stephanie, and just to add that it's actually 3,000 for the training, and then we'll get increments of 6,000 with each round to get the artists. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's why you got staff. They correct you.
Jennifer, you want to correct the boss?
No, actually, I think you did a really great job. We're just here monitoring at this point.
That's okay, but thank you for being here. Is there any other questions?
Nope.
Motion to accept the grant?
Motion made and second to accept the grant and vote that the full city council adopt it next Tuesday. All those in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? So moved.
Make a motion to take item
Aaron,
3 off
Jennifer,
the
Stephanie, thank you. Motion
you.
made and second to take item 3 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. This is introduced under my name for the mayor. It's a request of an appropriation transfer. It's from the Board of Health floating clerk of $1,000 going into the overtime for the Board of Health. Off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Our Board of Health Director, Sean Gonzalez, is on vacation this week. I know we sent the email to everybody, plus he has sent notes to the Finance Committee meeting explaining that this particular transfer request is a big part of the overtime is catching up with some of the COVID extra work done because of the COVID pandemic itself. And I don't remember, I know I read it, but the floating clerk was, I believe it has not been fully used. It's a per diem type situation where they pay as they go when they need the extra clerk. But that's I myself don't have a problem with the transfer. I think Sean does a great job, and we understand that some overtime is generated during a lot of different crises, and certainly he's been running his board through a crisis for the past couple of years. Councilor Jordan?
Yeah, a couple questions. So it looks like there was originally a request for 10,000 in the budget, and that was cut to 0, either by the mayor or us. And now he is making this request for $1,000. Now, is the employee entitled to overtime, or is this like, I just want to make sure that was the case. And then the way they're juggling them, I don't know if the mayor, I see the mayor's here, obviously he signed off on this, so I'm assuming he reviewed to make sure that they're being efficient with their time and that they truly, really need this.
Mayor?
Mayor, would you like to weigh in on that?
Hey, good evening, councilors, and thank you. Yeah, I cut, just like I cut a lot of line items with these, and you go through the year and you try to understand and learn as you go forward what the real need is, and we've been able to cover a lot of this with through the Flex Squad using ARPA, but some work that they do isn't necessarily eligible, and so the modest request of 1,000, a transfer there to help kind of gap fill the need. Sean's doing the best he could with what he has. Could he use more? Probably between now and the end of the fiscal year, we might come back for another transfer, but certainly to your point, Councilor Jourdain, it's something that I am monitoring as we go forward. So rather than starting the year with 10,000, here you go, it's more like, well, let's go through the year, come to me what your needs are, and I get to kind of better assess what the true need is. So yeah,
Okay.
we're monitoring.
That sounds good. I like that approach, Mayor. I appreciate your diligence in watching it. I'll make a motion that it be adopted.
Motion made and second to adopt. Is there any further discussion? Any discussion online? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Passes.
Make a motion to take up item 4 off the table.
Motion has been made and seconded to take item 4 off the table for discussion. This is a requested transfer from Highways HMEO account $50,000 to trash recycling contract, $50,000. Been initialed off by the auditor, signed off by the mayor, and put in front of us from the acting department head for our request to transfer this. On a motion to take off the table for discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Is there anyone here to lead us through this request?
Joe, that's for.
I'm not reading those.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's all right.
We've invited the acting department head, mayor, and our auditor is also on vacation this week, but
Yep. So, yeah, I spoke with Amy earlier, and she said she was going to try her best. She had some commitments this evening with the kids, but I'll do my best. I believe this is for the refuse. Is it the refuse payment?
it's coming from
The recycling.
yeah, it's coming from the highway maintenance EO account itself. So I think we know there's been a surplus there for a while, so that's not a question to most of us.
Right.
But yes,
If
trash
memory-
recycling contract.
If memory is serving me correctly, the recycling is under budget. I guess, they have this cost, this additional cost. What we're learning currently, we're practicing, I guess, a single stream, which costs more. And so, there isn't enough to cover that for the year. And, Amy came forward with this funding strategy to, get us to pay that bill. There's a lot more to this. This is what we're dealing with right now. To cover this, certainly, we have a meeting coming up with the powers that be. I did include council president so he could be at the table to, as well as our chair of the DPW, to evaluate this method and if whether or not we should be continuing on this single stream practice versus going back to dual stream. Certainly dual stream is much cost efficient, but considering, from what I'm told at least, considering the amount of work necessary and how under capacity we were, a decision was made before we all came on board here to pivot to single stream. And so right now at this meeting, what I want to understand is, what is it? Are we going to do dual? Are we going single? Because certainly there are some things that we need to untangle no matter what direction we go, so that we can be sure that we're, practicing a method that we're adequately budgeting for and so forth. But right now, presently as it stands, this 50,000 transfer is a result through not enough funds to pay for our current single stream, practice here with get rid of our recycling.
So we understand professional contracts come under your purview and under the department's purview for the service that is being provided. And so what you're telling us is this is with the MRF itself?
Yeah, that's what I don't know the ins and out of this, if whether or not it's with the MRF or what. What I do know is it's a bill coming from somewhere.
Yeah, we haven't entered into a new contract with the MRF in years that I can recall. And I
have information on that.
All right, maybe Councilor Jourdain, if I could recognize Councilor Jourdain.
Well, as you may have recalled, I filed some orders relative to this topic of recycling. I hear things such as we may be doing no recycling in this town. And I want to make sure that there's transparency about whatever we're doing for recycling in Holyoke. I think citizens have a right to know that when they put out recycling, what actually happens with their recycling, okay? So first place you would start to look, you'd say, well, show me the contract. with Murph. It was reported to me anonymously that we didn't even have a contract with Murph. So I asked for a copy of the contract. Then the day that I asked for a copy of the contract happened to be coincidentally signed that day, 5 months after allegedly the contract started. Mere coincidence? I don't know. But, it does lead one to wonder that there allegedly is this contract now between Holyoke and Murph dated December 6th. I'm still pouring through it. I've asked for the back contract. I haven't received that yet. But I would like to know, because I put out my plastic recycle, I put out my paper and the cardboard, and I want to know, are we 2 streams, 1 stream, or no streams? Because I'm hearing everything in between right now, and you can't really quite get a straight answer. So then you ask the next logical question is, okay, if you're recycling, can you provide me the statistics that says how much you're actually recycling? Oh, we can't give you that information because the recycling coordinator left in February, and we have no one to provide you that information. Okay, so who's on first here? We don't know, right? And so now it's interesting that there's this request to come in for $50,000, and I guess there's one here for $2,000 for a waste recycling coordinator. I'd like to get everybody in the room and find out what's actually going on for recycling in Holyoke before I vote to give anybody any money. And then at that point, we can figure out as a city council who's on first. And then number 2, who just makes a decision to go to 1 stream without consulting the elected leadership, by the way? That, with all due respect to the DPW, that should... We have it. This is in the packet. That's kind of a meaningful decision. That should be run by the mayor. That should be run by the city council. If people are going to do that, that's kind of noteworthy. And all of a sudden, is that something we want to do? Especially if it has a financial impact. Why aren't we being consulted? Oh, we're going to do 1 stream, and oh, by the way, it costs $50,000 extra. Okay, I want to hear about that in advance. People have to communicate around here. And so look forward to that discussion whenever we have the right people in the room. Thank you.
Mayor, just before I recognize you, just wanted to point out that we know we did get word late today, or I got word late today, that Amy could not make it. And she did send on some notes, which are good. Notes are always helpful, but we can't ask a piece of paper with notes on it questions. And it sounds like we have a lot of questions for this one, but I think before we make a motion to table it, because Amy says there's a meeting with the PVPC, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission consultant coming up in January. So it sounds like this is not even a contract that's been negotiated yet, or it's being renegotiated. I'm not sure. Mayor, did you want to add anything, or did I?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, and I have Amy on speaker here with me. We're having a conversation, and she's listening in there. But yeah, so she was asking a table. We do have a whole trash and recycling study committee that's working with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission to evaluate these very things and come forward with options to that we can consider for implementation. But she did make note that it was Mike McManus and former Mayor Murphy that made that decision to go to single stream because COVID and staff capacity and whatever the case. So that's where that derived from. But she was asking a table because soon this, report's going to be released and shared with everybody, and we can make decisions then. But also wanted to take an opportunity to answer some of these questions so that there isn't any, misconceptions or misinformation being spread around.
And I think any other questions before we make a motion to table? Anybody else have any questions they want to try to get answers for ahead of time is what I meant?
No.
Okay. All right, Mayor, thank you. I think our best bet is to put it on for a future meeting.
Joe, you're mute, Council, you're muted.
Yeah, Amy could just let me know.
Oh, there you go.
I apologize. I asked the body if there's any further questions that we could get answers up front for, and I think our questions are, for the most part, out on the table, but I think we really need to see what the negotiations are gonna lead to and get a better understanding of the cost, because Councilor Jordan is right. We've had a lot of updates over the last couple of years, a lot of changes in the recycling industry itself, some good, some bad. Not all anything to do with the city, but just overall. But very important, because not only is recycling the right thing to do, it saves us money from what doesn't go in the landfill for our tipping fee there. And it, sometimes even earns us a little money back, or at least maybe hopefully break even. But one way or the other, we do need, people to talk to when we're doing these requests. So why don't we table it and find out when it's a better night so we can get Amy in and whoever else you designate to answer our questions. Does that make sense?
Yep. Motion to table item number 4.
Motion made, second.
And number
Table
5?
And
5, we're going to return
we
to the
we
audit.
just do 5 separate. There's a little different, but
Okay.
on 4, on the motion to table, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Mr. Chairman, just want to state that.
We've been joined by our 5th member, Councilor Juan Anderson Burgos. Welcome, Councilor.
Welcome.
Off the table for discussion, item 5, is that all right?
Yes.
Yep.
Second.
This is a request under my name for the mayor, the transfer of $2,000 from safety inspector into the line item known as waste recycling coordinator. Off the table for discussion, Amy's note here is the transfer is no longer needed. The wastewater and recycling coordinator is given a retirement date in January. We'll have sufficient funds, as this will be vacant for a while. So we can send it
Return to
back-
the auditor?
Return it back to the auditor. I'm sure we're not going to discuss that one, but thank you. On that motion, return back to the auditor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion to take item number 6 off the
Motion
table.
made second to take item 6 off the table. Item 6, also introduced under my name for the mayor, is a request to transfer $10,000 from parks maintenance into overtime forestry. Off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. This is the second time we've taken this up, so I'd like to add something. I had a good conversation with Amy, and I really appreciate her understanding of her budget, of the budget for the DPW, and I had a conversation with the auditor. The forestry overtime account is in deficit, and that's a no-no, and as we all know, in fiscal management within the government, within the city itself. But there's a quandrum here. The way it's set up now, the contract for the DPW foremen, supervisors, is on each week they take turns going on call, which means they are on call overnight for a week. And they are paid overtime, for any time they have to go in for an emergency or to respond to, some type of a call that would need the services of the DPW after hours. So that's kind of hard to hold back money for a foreman who by contract is required to do this. And certainly I don't want to, we knowing how much work we have out there for forestry, it's kind of hard to say no to overtime for the one-person show. Unfortunately, it should be a two-person show, but our truck, is there any movement on the truck, Mr. Mayor, in terms of getting that forestry truck we paid $250,000 for out in the street?
We have the truck,
We do.
No body.
but it's not being used at the
I
moment.
understand.
From what's being shared with me, is I guess you want 2 folks out there using the truck. We only got 1 guy. No movement as far as getting that amendment to the MOU and the union contract so that we can get a better salary and attract a candidate to fill that tree climbing position, which is why we pivoted and put funds into the outsource contract. But hopefully we can get something going for the next fiscal year. But currently, to my knowledge, the truck is not being used.
Well, with all due respect, and I know this got kind of dumped on your lap, and I only found out about it maybe a couple of weeks ago, a little bit longer, and it's unacceptable. The
I
city
agree.
taxpayers pay $240,000 for a truck, a state-of-the-art truck to perform the services needed, highly needed within the city, known as, whether it's pruning of trees or removing of trees and so forth. And yes, it's required, there always should be a second person working with a forester, but because of certificates, the person is required to have more than the average laborer within the DPW. Therefore, it's my understanding that the city, through your office, through the law department, negotiated a salary that was higher than what the union wanted. The union actually rejected it because it was higher and wanted to open up the contract for everybody. I find that deplorable. $250,000 sitting in a bay in the DPW garage is deplorable. I've been waiting for an answer. I'll be honest with you. You all know it's been more than 2 weeks for me.
And it goes further than that. I think we need a leader at the DPW, and I'm so looking forward for the new guy to start this job and help better manage what's happening there. Just managing trees in general. It's navigating the culture has been a challenge. We've made some progress here and there, but we obviously have a lot more work to do to get to where we want to be when it comes to things like managing our city trees.
Any further discussion? Councilor Jordan?
I'm still at a little bit of a loss as to why this is needed, this overtime for forestry. This is something that was, the gentleman, if this is for the supervisor, he's been here forever and a day. And why didn't this make it into the budget? Like, why was this unknown that he has to do a rotation every 7th week?
That's my understanding, and I apologize for having a back and forth discussion, but I think it's necessary. My understanding is it's the contracts allows, or the contract was negotiated to have the foreman take turns on call instead of, if there's a forestry emergency, do you call the foreman of forestry?
Okay.
If there's a highway and bridges, a highway and streets emergency, you call, which, in other words, no matter what the emergency is, one person answers it for a given week, and then they it makes sense.
Yeah.
And they just, recycle the next week to the next foreman. But taking it out of a line item known as overtime for forestry, overtime for trash removal, that doesn't make sense, because that loses the accountability of, you're not really spending these overtime dollars necessarily on forestry. He could be in there because there's streetlights out, and or they need a dump truck or a snowstorm or whatever.
I guess my question is, was this not known at the time that the budget was made? Because what is essentially they're doing is they're taking $10,000 from parks maintenance men and putting it into a forestry overtime line, presumably because the forester is using every 7th week. He's part of the rotation, so he has to contribute. So they're paying his overtime since he's in forestry out of that line, which makes perfect sense. Yeah. The question is, why, isn't this been going on for quite some time? And therefore, why wasn't this in the budget in the first place? Is it just we missed it, or is it coming up short for some reason?
Again, I apologize. The overtime accounts have been in the budget. I did not know that it was a double use line item for. It's not just for on call. It's also for if the forester comes in because a tree is across the road, and he has to remove the tree on the weekend, he gets paid overtime. So that's why we've always had that line item. I didn't realize that they also used it. So it's in deficit. That's the reason for the request. Without the department head here, I'm not too sure
Right.
how much has been spent, if it was cut at the beginning of during the budget hearings themselves, if the mayor reduced the department head's request,
Okay. So we don't know what it was originally budgeted at. I did not bring my.
It's on the
budget
sheet
book.
here. It is on here.
Oh, is it?
It went from 12,020 to 10,021 down to 6,000 this year.
Oh, I see.
There's
Oh,
only
I see.
6,000 this year, so that's
Only
it's about
budgeted
half.
for 6,000, which is a decline from 2022 from 12 to 10. So now, does this mean that by giving this amount, it's going to be up to 16? 6 plus 10?
Yep.
Okay. So if it was 6, 10, 12, 12, why are we at 16?
Some of them might already been spent this year. Yeah. Some of them already been spent. We're 6 months into the year, so some of
Seems like it's,
some of it's already gone down, I think.
no, understood, but we did put 6, and somehow they spent 12 the last 2 fiscal years.
Right.
Well, actually, I should say it was 10,000 was spent in fiscal 22, 12,000 was spent in 21 and 20. Now they want to put it up to 16. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do see-
See how the math works there? 6 plus 10?
But 6,000 started in July 1st. Some of that money's already spent, I believe. So it's not really 6,000 in there right now. If we had the auditors, he'd probably say there might be $2,000 in there.
No, understood.
Yeah,
But
so-
what the Amy is reporting to us in this memo is we spent 10,000 last fiscal year, 12,000 the year before,
Right.
12,000 a year before. So in the highest of the 3 years was 12,000.
12,000, right.
This year we budgeted 6, and now we want to add 10 more to the budget, which makes it 16. And the question is, why is it going up so much? Because if the high mark in 3 years was 12, we're now moving the budget to 16 for this year. My point is, why didn't it go to like 6,000 more or 4,000 more?
I'm just thinking that 6,000 isn't in the budget right now. That's what
It
we
is.
asked for.
She says right there, it was budgeted for this year at 6,000.
Right. But how much of that is gone?
It doesn't matter.
It was a deficit already. I think they reported last week, so it's in deficit.
It was. You mean it was in deficit before? Well, at the start of the year, it can't be in deficit at the beginning of the year.
No. But sometime, I mean, I see what you're saying, but
Bottom line is she ends up with 16
Yeah.
from 10. So there's really no explanation for that. Unless they're just, who knows?
somebody here to talk.
Hey, Mayor, would you like to chime in?
You're on mute, Mayor. Between you and us, we're,
Look at that rookie mistake.
no worries.
So last year and the year before, like 10,000 was budgeted. Amy?
According to her, she said that they spent 10 last
Right.
year and 12 the 2
No,
years before.
they budgeted 10. We don't have the figures in front of us, but she believes that
They spent more than 10.
funds were there were transfers that were in that line item made. So
I see.
essentially, that's more than 10?
Yeah, I know we spent more than 10.
Right.
I just don't have that figure in front of me.
Okay. So those numbers you're looking at is what was budgeted for last
I
year,
see.
previous year, but there was actually more spent than the 10,000 you see.
I see. Okay.
And so,
All right.
and this year, yeah, they had asked for X amount. We put in my budget 6,000 on that line item. Again, I did this pretty much across the board to a bunch of overtime line items, particularly the single ones, rather than these large group ones. Go ahead, Amy.
We didn't think he would need to get as many calls because we also had budgeted a tree climber, so we would have had a forestry department. And it wouldn't have been as much overtime in the forestry side, but that was cut,
Got it.
due to the union.
Mayor, thank you. Amy, I don't know if she can hear me.
She could hear you.
Okay.
Okay, look, please identify yourself for open meeting laws. All we're seeing is we're hearing you loud and clear, which is fine, but could you just identify yourself, because you're not logged into Zoom, we don't see it, and more important, the public watching on Zoom don't see it.
Yes, Amy Sanowski, the acting DPW superintendent. I'm picking this up on a call in the car. I apologize.
Don't apologize, we welcome you, but we gotta deal with these, they're important, the open meeting laws.
Okay, so with that clarification, so these numbers that we were provided by Amy are the budgeted amounts, not the actual spent amount. I'll make a motion to approve this, but it would be helpful to provide us in the future the actual amount spent, because that's the more important number as we're trying to compare. Could you get that over to the chairman some point before the meeting next week? That would be helpful. How much was actually spent these 3 years? So this way, when we go to vote, we can make sure that we're doing our due diligence.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Absolutely, I can get it to him tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Is that Jeff?
Chair?
Yes,
No, it's
Jeffrey
Juan.
Anderson.
Oh, Juan's got his hand up.
No, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't have my hand up, but our administrator did, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's all. Thank you.
You think I don't know how to do Zoom, counselor?
I mean, do you want me to answer that for public
The
record?
chair recognizes Jeffrey Anderson Burgos. Welcome, Jeff.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just opened up Munis and checked the account. Looks like they transferred 8,000 in fiscal year 2022, and in fiscal year 2021, they transferred in 2,308.71.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right.
Mayor, we know who can also fill in for any vacancies in your finance department now.
So it looks like, okay, so that looks like they spent, so it looks like they spent 14 and 21, if what Jeff is saying is right, and then 18, at least was transferred in, whether they spent
Transferred
it
in,
all
yeah.
or not. Okay, is another question. Okay, all right, well,
So we're going with the motion to transfer,
yeah, we're making a motion to approve this.
yeah?
Motion made and second to approve this transfer, refer it to the full city council next Tuesday. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none online. This will be roll call because we are now hybrid. So when I call your name, just say yes or no. Counselor Tallman?
Yes.
Counselor Jordan?
Yes.
Counselor Powell? Yes. Counselor Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Counselor McGivern? Yes. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
I think that's it for
DPW.
DBW. Yep. Thank you.
Can I suspend the rules and take items 7 and 8 together as a package?
Second.
Second.
Motion made second to take in suspension of rules to take 7 and 8 as a package. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Just backwards, but for a reason. 8 we've had on the table. It's at the full city council level, then we referred it back to committee. 8 is a request put in front of us by the auditor from the school side of the city budget. Under the schools, an anonymous donation has been made in the amount of $1,066,548. This request is to authorize the establishment of fund other method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts, all under Mass General Law 44, Section 53A, and expenditures of all resources. That language is very similar to what we just read earlier tonight when we received 2 grants. Even though it's an anonymous donation, it is an appropriation, and we do the same thing as when we bring grants into the city. The difference here is that this is in the school department, and as I think most of us know, we're just a reminder because we have both representatives from the law department with us this evening, is that under Mass General laws, the school committee generally would be responsible. They have their own procedure for the school budget in terms of grants that come in before and during the school fiscal year itself. The school committee, because of receivership, is not got the purview to take these votes. We've been doing different things as a city council in lieu of that. Welcome Kathleen Degan from our assistant city solicitor. Kathleen, did you want to, item number 7 is your communication, your legal opinion to us. Did you want me to read it? You want to just explain that to us?
Sure. Good evening, counselors. Yes, I did, and I apologize for the lateness of it. I sent to Jeffrey Anderson Burgos what you call an addendum to my prior legal opinion because I was reminded of the receivership, the fact that the school, there's a receiver involved. So I did a little bit of extra research, and in accordance with the Mass General Laws, Chapter 69, Section 1K, when you have a receiver's been appointed, that receiver has all the powers of the superintendent and the school committee. So in my prior opinion, I indicated that it's the school committee that has the power to accept this gift. However, we have receivership, so under the statute I just mentioned, the receiver has the powers of the school committee. So the long and the short of it is, with respect to this particular gift, it's my opinion, and I thank you for that information, Counselor McGivern. But it's my opinion that it's the receiver that has the power and authority to accept this particular gift.
We got to take it one step further, which is what we do as a legislative body. Is, you know, the mayor has the right through a department most of the time, almost all the time, to accept the grants, to accept gifts within to the city. He then has to come to the city council through the auditor and ask us to appropriate the monies, allowing the mayor and the department head, appropriate department head, to spend and account for those dollars. So I get the receiver, you know, is under receivership, the person who can do a lot of things without the school committee, can do anything without the school committee, can do anything without the unions, but all those poor teachers still pay union dues. I don't get that part. That's an editorial comment, Mayor. I like to make them at these meetings, you know. He can just appropriate the money and spend it, or should we not be allowing the auditor to set up these accounts and account for them?
Yeah, that's a good question, because in accordance with Chapter 7137A, the money, you know, the monies are deposited with the treasurer's office and are expended by the school committee without any further appropriation, notwithstanding the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53. So in answer to your question, I think that the account should be created, but it's the school department that has the power, at least under the statutes that I've referred to expend the money for the gift. I hope that's
And
clear.
I'll ask one last question and turn it over to Councilor Jordan, because I've been eating up a lot of his time, but
No,
he forgives
help
me.
yourself. I love this stuff. I could go
My
all
last
night with
question
this.
is, the middle of this next fiscal year, our governor-elect is no longer our governor-elect, and Governor Healy ends receivership. Do we have to all of a sudden vote on all these appropriations? We'll leave that one alone tonight. That's for future thought, all right?
Right.
Councilor Jordan.
Thank you.
Kathy,
Yes.
first thing I'd like to ask you about is, I'm intrigued by your opinion in this regard. Chapter 7137A classifies those specific organizations that the school committee is allowed to receive a grant from. It classifies them essentially in two categories. It says that the donation must originate from a government agency, or it has to be from a charitable foundation or a private corporation. The school committee is not allowed to accept grants from individuals. Definitely not. The law specifically earmarks those. And so if this is an anonymous donation, how do you know it comes from one of the allowed organizations? It certainly can't be coming from a government, because a government isn't allowed to make an anonymous donation. Number two is, you can't, if it's anonymous, verify to the auditors, to us, to the citizens at large, that this is from a charitable foundation or private corporation. It has to be from one of those classifications in order for the school committee to be independent of the city council to accept a donation. So,
That's a very good, I'm sorry, go ahead.
so I guess my question is, do you know the source and you're just not telling us? Or I want to know how anonymous this truly is. Or is it anonymous to you too?
It is, Counselor. I do not know who this is, but I would go back to Chapter 69, Section 1K, which does not have that. As long as there's a receiver, it doesn't have that caveat that you're talking about. So no,
let
to
me-
answer your question, I don't know.
Okay, so let me back up on that. 69-1K only says that the receiver has the power of the school committee and the superintendent. Do we agree on that?
One moment.
Because the point is, if the school committee doesn't have the power, how can a receiver who has the power of the school committee have a different power? He or she only gets the same powers that they're taking over. That's what the whole point of the receiver law was, that he, in our case it's a he, replaces the school committee and the superintendent. He has the combined powers of both. That's what that law gives them. But if they didn't have that power, how does he automatically inherit a power they don't have?
Well, it also says in Chapter 69, Section 1K, that, just one moment, that the receiver shall have full managerial and operational control over such district, provided the school district shall remain the employer of record. And we're not talking about employees right now. We're talking about management and operation control. So I'm not sure I understand your point. I'm just not sure for interpretation of that particular statute that it's that clear.
Oh, I think it's really clear. Mayor of Holyoke has the full managerial and operational control of the city day to day. There's no question about that. But the mayor alone cannot accept grants on behalf of the city of Holyoke without city council permission. The state legislature knows what they're doing when they write laws, and they made it very limited as to the ones that a school committee can accept funds from directly. It says only from other government agencies, only from private foundations, charitable foundations, and from private corporations. Those are the only three that they're allowed to accept funds from. So I would agree with you that if they had the power to accept anonymous donations from anyone, that he would have that power. I agree with you there because he's substituting their power. But if they don't have that power, there's nothing in 69-1K that gives him some super authority that says he can even do things that they couldn't do. It's just that he gets their power. That's the only difference.
Like I said, I understand your point, Counselor.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I'm in complete agreement with you on that, but I am also not adverse because we're talking about an anonymous donation. And when I first started this, there's not a lot of law in terms of what to do with an anonymous donation. So I think your point is well taken. Like I said, I'm not sure I completely agree, but I would take another look at it to clarify, just to make certain that we're in complete agreement, because this is important. We're talking about accepting a gift, and we want to make sure we do it right.
Well, right. And if someone were to just read your opinion, Kathy, and again, I know you work very hard here and do a good job, but what your opinion leads one to believe is to say, well, the school committee can accept a donation to the school department. It doesn't qualify it in any way to say who they can accept it from. It just says you can accept a donation to the school department, but there's limits to that power. And then you go on to say, well, since the receiver has the power of the school committee, the receiver can do it. That doesn't mention any of these important limitations on that power. And so if somebody is truly anonymous, I would argue you don't know if they fall under the allowed exceptions, because there's no way, if they are truly anonymous, that we know if they meet one of those categories. So I think we still haven't answered the problem here yet in the conundrum. And let me move on, because all of this might be moot. Because do you feel that only the city council can create the fund? Or do you feel that the school department can do this independent of us?
In terms of creating the fund, Nah, under the statute, it just requires that it to be deposited with the treasurer's office. So, my opinion doesn't go that far, to make that determination. So, I understand the question, and Counselor, no, I'm not saying that they can necessarily do this without city council approval. And an interesting question, I mean, you said, I mean, this is all about an anonymous donation. And one thing that might need to be fleshed out is, I mean, I think that we can accept an anonymous donation. I mean, that would be a terrible thing to say that we can't. No, I don't think this is necessarily something that would be created independent. I'm not sure if the school committee sets up accounts. That falls within the purview of the treasurer. So, you've raised some interesting questions, Counselor, and I would like to go back because this is an unusual situation. I mean, you don't see very many requests to accept an anonymous gift. So,
Well,
if it's permitted, I'd like to, if it's permitted, I would like to take another swing at this and see if I can come up with any regulation or case law. I'm not sure if there's case law, but perhaps regulation to study this a little further and come back to this committee with a more well-defined answer.
Here's the problem with anonymous gifts. How do we even know this is, on first blush, you'd say, oh, somebody wants to leave a bag of money at the door and we just all run away and the treasurer grabs it and we deposit it. But at the other hand, you have to ask yourself, who is this? Is this somebody laundering money? Is this somebody, who the hell knows where this is coming from, right? We know if this is truly anonymous, somebody literally just left a bag of cash at the door, right? Which is essentially what we're being told. I mean,
no, it's.
So I'll stop there to say that leaves me pause to wonder, what is this, and who is it from?
I'll just say I don't have a problem with the anonymous part of this, and I don't think that was the issue that was before us, but it could be. But we have to get over the hump first. Is it supposed to be before us? Mayor Garcia?
Thank you. Through the chair, I just wanted to nudge Mike, Attorney Bissonette, if there is anything in his experience or knowledge that can be added. If there isn't, that's fine. I just wanted to see if Mike had anything to share.
Attorney Bissonette? Anything like this in Chicopee? I think that's what he said.
I doubt it.
Basically, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor. I can assure the committee that having negotiated this donation with legal counsel from California, the donor is a private corporation, was looking for a school system, an environmental justice community that it could do some good. It had not made a determination that Holyoke was going to be selected, but it certainly was one of the finalists. Our preliminary agreement required that the donor be listed as anonymous. Frankly, after we researched it, we were able to agree that it was unlikely that it would even come before the council until such time as the Holyoke benefactor would want to make itself known. We have since negotiated the final agreement because of the confidentiality involved in that final agreement. I'm not at liberty to anything other than it is a private corporation within the meaning of the statute. Councilor Jordan, appreciate your bringing that up, but it's clear that this falls within the ambit of the prior legal opinion from Attorney Degnan. So I appreciate the opportunity to clarify that. I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mayor, and Happy New Year, everybody.
Oh, perfect. So, Joe, can I have the floor?
Councilor Jordan still has the floor. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So that's hugely helpful. So this isn't totally anonymous. You know who these people are, Mike. You were just, as a condition of the gift, saying that they asked to remain anonymous. These are important details, okay? Like, so it's a reputable person who's a private corporation who is out of the kindness of their heart trying to help a city like a Holyoke with some funds. That puts a whole nother light on this. And if that's all true and it meets the definition of 7137A as a private corporation, then I guess from our perspective, we should send this all back to the auditor because they can do this without us, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's where we're getting.
Okay, all right. Well, those are key details. So thank you for sharing.
Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mike, for bringing that forward to us. It really helps us out a lot. And I just, on that back page of this, the sheet there with the donation, it stated how the city of Holyoke wanted to use that money to really replace some outdated lighting systems in 7 of our schools with LED components, which can be very costly. And that was from Whitney Anderson on the back page of that. So I think this is a great benefit. I've talked to a couple of my colleagues there tonight with what could they do with the money, and I said they probably already spent it. But to do, and it looks like they already going to spend it on improving the lighting and saving some energy costs for 7 of our school facilities throughout the city. So I think this is very important. It's a big benefit to the city of Holyoke.
$150,000 a year.
Yep, and really appreciate.
Energy savings is $150 a year.
That's awesome, and I really appreciate you getting with this corporation and getting this contract going, and hopefully we'll be able to move this along.
Go hand in hand with the nice work that the schools are doing now for all those elementary schools and all the retrofits that you guys have just approved that are going to get reimbursed for up to 80% in Holyoke. So it's going to mean a new day, I think, for your elementary schools. There's going to be very refreshed buildings.
That'd be great. Thank you.
I would just have one request before we vote on this. Mayor, if you could, I'm sure you've probably already done this, but on behalf of us in the school department, send a big thank you to this company. I think it's a generous gift, not just an anonymous one. And my understanding is it's going to be put to real good use with the ideas that it can be used for. But certainly what a lot of our facilities need. This is it's quite a gift, and very much appreciated by a lot of us. Any further discussion?
So I'll make a motion that I guess we we receive item 7, and we do or we don't need to approve number 8 to set up a fund. If we don't, then we send it back to the auditor. If we do, then I make a motion that it be approved.
Motion made second to receive item 7. And the motion carried on, because we're going to do a roll call, is that we return the anonymous donation request to the auditor, and unless she tells us we do have to vote on the appropriation stuff, I think we're in good shape. Okay. So with that, roll call: Councilor Tallman.
Yes.
Councilor Jordan.
Yes.
Councilor Powell. Councilor McGivern. Yes. And online, Councilor Anderson Burgos.
Of course.
All right.
I just like to see that smile. Motion passes 5-0. This will go to the City Council. Thank you, especially to the Law Department. I know you don't usually get called to come into the Finance Committee, but we greatly appreciate it. There is some stuff coming up. I don't know if you're hanging around, because I see my good friend Mike Falsetti patiently hanging around. Mike, one more item, and then we'll go right to you.
Motion to take item number 9 off the
Motion
table.
made second to take item 9 off the table for discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? This is a request to pay a bill from last fiscal year of $1,445. It's from the Building and Codes Department. Other contracted services is identified where it will come from. They are other contracted services, as we know in our packet here, but it's for services paid this year that were rendered last year. It's off the table for discussion. We don't have, Mayor, do we have an acting building inspector yet?
Inspector, Commissioner.
We don't. We should be very soon. Did you guys hear me?
Yes. Do you know if this invoice has been vetted? The invoice goes back to, well, actually, it was sent this year. I'm looking at a date, I'm sorry. But it's I'm sorry, the last year invoice was 6/21/22. So it was an invoice that was at the end of the fiscal year, probably got lost, didn't get encumbered, and it's for $1,445. And it came from Forbes and Wheeler Incorporated is the vendor.
The details on the flip side of this.
Sorry. And it came to the building department through Forbes and Wheeler with an address of 650 Dwight Street here in Holyoke. There is a detailed invoice with a breakdown on the line items, and it goes from, it looks like a service that was performed, which includes everything from house project manager hours, site inspection, cleanup, sampling, day rate, monitored, lane, labs, it goes on, breaking down even into more detail with not minute, but smaller amounts. Mayor, does he ring a bell to you?
Well, as far as the actual service, no, but these straggling bills from one fiscal year to next, it happens. Is there there's the service date of June. Is there a statement date of when the invoice was given? Because usually we get these stragglers when you're transitioning, you're doing your year end, and you're trying to go into the new fiscal year, and you're working with every department to be sure that they're communicating with all their vendors to collect all the invoices. And sometimes you get these where they pop out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, well, okay. And so here we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
May 27th, yeah.
We're looking that the work was done in May 27th. The bill was sent out on June 21st and may not have been received to, a day or two later, but anyways.
Yeah.
So it's a bill that was sent within 30 days, but as you said, the end of the fiscal year, people dealing with municipal governments have to understand the importance of getting their bills, their invoices in time to be processed, so at least they can be encumbered.
Yeah. It looks legitimate, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second
I
that.
agree under the circumstances, especially with our building inspector, Mr. Cody gone, that I would hope that, it's been vetted. I trust the auditor and the mayor that this is a legit bill, and certainly the department.
Yeah.
I do gotta say, this is the third bill from a previous fiscal year that you guys have paid, and it's pretty impressive. Only three missed from that transition.
One year we yelled, screamed, cried a lot, and department heads got a little bit better, so this isn't bad.
No, it's not too bad.
Maybe it's the mayor, the new sheriff in town.
Yeah.
They're afraid of you.
Yeah.
On a motion to adopt, is there any further discussion? Roll call, Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Jordan?
Yes.
Councilor Pello? Yes. Councilor Anderson Burgos?
But of course.
And Councilor McGivern, yes. Passes 5-0. We appreciate everybody for your patience and understanding, and that'll go to the full city council next Tuesday. Michael Falsetti, welcome.
Motion to take item number 10 off the table.
Motion by second to take item 10 off the table. All those in favor? Any opposed? Mike is the vice chair of the CPA. I exchanged voice messages and texts with your chair earlier today. I understand she has a family commitment, and you kindly asked to step in at the last minute. Mike, I'm sorry. I know you've been online for a while. We try to get word to you that it would be the latter part of the agenda because we got a few CPA requests here. But this one is kind of brand new, and we just want to make sure we get it right and get the answers to the full city council for Tuesday. I also know Don Sanders or somebody from MIFA is here.
I'm Don Sanders.
Don,
I'm
welcome.
here. There.
Okay.
Hi.
Well, welcome wherever you are, but welcome to Zoom. I know you've been in the parlor, but I'm sure you were enjoying the good company you had in the parlor.
Yeah.
This is a request of for $1,455, and I'm not going to read the right one until I pick it up.
Number 10.
Number 10.
This is a request that the Andover City Council accept the revised fiscal 21 CPA MIFA Victory Theater Murals project. We have an attached document that details that, but I'm going to ask our vice chair first to, Mike, if you'd like to just walk us through this. I know you've always been on top of a number of these projects.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. City Councilor Rivera and Don Sanders are as familiar as I am with these, but basically what it talks about is mounting, since the City Hall is not the capable or appropriate location to hang the murals, that they should in fact be put in a type of venue that will keep them in their condition they are now. But a section of it, of the top portion of one of the murals, can be displayed at Wisteria Hearst. And the folks at Wisteria Hearst and MIFA agreed that the mural that's talked about with the Upper Lynette section will be displayed at Wisteria for a year. The folks from MIFA said the location and the conditions are acceptable to display that portion of the mural, and it'll be put there for a 1 year for the anniversary, 150th anniversary of Hoyle, put there for a year. And after that, if the Victory Theater, if there's no place to display it after that, since the City Hall is not an appropriate place for it, for either one of the murals, then it would be put into a perpetual location that it would be under care and watchful eye of the person who's installing, or I should say, restoring the murals themselves. That's Jeff Green of Evergreen Architectural Arts, who will be responsible for making sure that the murals are stored and kept in an appropriate location and in the appropriate conditions, that they won't be damaged after they've been restored. They'll be in good stead. And the second part of that is also that the same amount, the amount of money is the same, should in any event, after 5 years, 10 years, or after some period of time, and Don and Izzy, you can jump in whenever you want, but part of that agreement is the alternative. If there's no place, after some point in time, if this storage of the murals is such that they agree to what if the city of Hoyoke agrees to accept these, there are conditions that are part in the piece of paper that you folks have that say that the city of Hoyoke will take them and will display them in an appropriate location. They can't be sold, defaced, or altered in any way. The city takes responsibility for storing and preserving them safely and appropriately. They'll be assigned to say that it's on loan from the Massachusetts International Festival of the Arts, MIFA, and any other agreements at that time that the city of Hoyoke agrees to accept these murals. It's basically right now is the agreement between the CPA and MIFA vis-a-vis this project is we're not going to store them in the city hall because the city engineer and the persons at DPW at that time said the city hall was not an appropriate location, both for its physical size and for the nature and the temperature swings in that particular room. Therefore, we're going to put the Jeff Green is going to be responsible for the restoration and preservation of these. And there's one portion of it, the Upper Lynette part, that is going to be in Wisteria for everyone to see for a year. And then after that, it'll be put in storage, and with MIFA paying for that storage. And then if and when the Victory is completed, they'll be put back in their original locations at the theater. And if for some reason the funding just doesn't come through, it just doesn't happen, And we have two restored murals that we paid for. The MIFA will put on permanent loan to the city of Holyoke these murals that where the city engineer, the DPW, the mayor will agree is an appropriate location to display them. It's not our property really, it's the property of MIFA, but they'll give it to us on a permanent loan forever, should the Victory Theater not come to fruition. So it's basically, in a nutshell, the fact that it won't be at City Hall to be displayed. A portion of the mural will be displayed at Wisteriahurst. And if things don't pan out for Victory Theater, there's an agreement that MIFA and the City of Holyoke will take possession of it on loan from MIFA forever. And the mayor will decide the appropriate location along with MIFA in terms of the environment and sunlight and so on and so forth that will affect the mural itself. So basically, it's the agreement that was negotiated between the CPA and MIFA, which is referred to as the revised FY21 CPA MIFA Victory Theater Mural Project, $95,500. So the city will pay for it, or the CPA will pay for it via the city, taxes and so on. But if it doesn't come to fruition, it'll come back to the city. If the Victory Theater doesn't come to fruition, it'll come back to the city on permanent loan, and the mayor and the city council can decide where to permanently put them.
Michael, I think Megan can be proud of you because she certainly chose the right person to send in her place. Yeah. You could not have been more thorough. We appreciate it. The original project, you recaptured, but more important, the change in the project. And obviously it's about preservation, protection of some very, very beautiful artwork that is part of the Victory Theater and part of this whole endeavor. And most important, I think your explanations were to the point about why the change is necessary. I just want to recognize Councilor Izzy Rivera has joined us. Councilor Izzy Rivera is also our liaison to CPA. He sits on the committee itself, a group of Hoyokers that do an incredible amount of work. Jeff, is there anybody else from the committee or from MIFA that's in the parlor or the attendance room? I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, but either way, we welcome you all. Councilor Rivera, did you have anything to add? Mike just gave us a very thorough, detailed explanation. Okay, thank you. I see you got your hands full there, too. Real quick, Don Sanders. Don, we're not revisiting the entire project, but we always welcome you, and if you want to add something about this change and why it's important, we certainly would like to hear from you before we start opening up the questions from the committee.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank Michael and everybody who's worked on this project. It's just a great project. The murals are, I think, one of the most exciting pieces of artwork that any city has, but Holyoke has them. Vincent Miragliotti, who is the painter, is a very well-known WPA artist and venerated. They were done in 1941. They are really going to be beautiful, and it's just so smart to save them. I think of it as saving something, and the plan that we've worked out that Michael has outlined is such a good plan because no matter what happens, it absolutely ensures that the restored murals will be saved for posterity. So thank you.
And we do have Mike Bissonnette from the Law Department. Do we have a contract for this? Was there a negotiation with the city that, if something, well, we're not going to say if, Don, but, we know the Victory Theater is going to be open and we know they're going to go back up, right?
Yes.
All right. But if not, the city does have right of first refusal. I don't know where he came up with that.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Mike, is there a contract with MIFA?
For lack of a better term, the right of first refusal, I think. would be consistent with the kind of CPA restrictions that are placed on most of these grants. But this is a safeguard in the event, and it's getting more unlikely every time I hear news about it, that this project does not succeed. The city is protected for its investment and also to secure those murals, of which I would note, Mr. Chairman, that Chicopee has one preserved in its post office for posterity as well. So it's a great save here by Holyoke.
Thank you, and thank you for the input, much appreciated, and the reminder, I forgot how detailed those restrictions are from the CPA. They are incredible. I get phone calls about them and sometimes nightmares, but, you know, it's, I'm just having a lot of fun here, Councilor Tallman, you know?
Yeah.
Councilor Jordan.
Okay, few questions for you. So it looks like it says that the murals are 30 feet in length. So there's two of them, I assume. So they're both 30 feet?
Yes.
And it says that, if I understand correctly, that part of the $95,000, my first question is CPA has already allocated and approved that $95,500, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
That's already in the CPA budget? Okay, great.
Yes.
And you're just, the reason this is coming before us is because you're changing a little bit of the details around how you were going to spend the money, and that's why you're reporting that to us. Okay, that sounds good. Now, the next question I have is, under this, the murals will be restored, and this will include the first year of storage?
Yes.
Now, Michael, it says in one of the provisions, I believe it's the second bullet in section 3B, that says, in the event the city of Holyoke cannot display the murals for the public, the city must take responsibility for storing and preserving them safely and appropriately. So I want to understand what the plan is. Obviously, it makes all the sense in the world that someday, hopefully soon, the Victory Theater goes forward and they go right back to the Victory Theater. That's what everybody wants. But in the event that takes Lord knows how long more, then these are going to be stored where? At the Wisteria Hearst? Is that the current plan?
No, Don, you can jump in any time, but no, it'll be stored by Jeff Green in an appropriate location. Jeff Green is from Evergreen Architectural Arts. He's the person who is in charge of the restoration of both murals. He would select a location either in his studio or someplace nearby where it's under appropriate environmental conditions and preserved for as long as it takes until the Victory Theater is finished. Then they'll be returned to the Victory Theater from which they came. And if the city should take responsibility, if it doesn't work out and the Victory Theater falls short and cannot open for the lack of funding, then the city can take these on a permanent loan from the Massachusetts Festival, from MIFA, and it'll become, we'll be the guardians of both murals. And the mayor could work with the DPW or the city engineer to find out the War Memorial Building, Holyoke High School, Community College, the post office, I don't know, the Holyoke Mall, any other place that may be appropriate.
Library, history room?
Library, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. What bothered, in a nutshell, what bothered the committee, the CPA committee, and I'm sure it bothered Don also, was that these two iconic pieces of Holyoke's history would be forgotten or lost or thrown away or just gone the way of the wind. And we'd lose it and never to get it back. And we were very concerned and worried about that these two iconic pieces will always be with us, will always be a part of our history. They'll always be located somewhere, should Victory not come to fruition. At least they'll be somewhere in the city under the purview of the city of Holyoke under the proper environmental conditions that the public, the city of Holyoke, can cherish. And we were very concerned about that. And that's why we put these conditions in that we didn't want the murals sold. We didn't want them altered. If they can't go back to their original home, they'll come back to the city at an appropriate location. The library is a beautiful spot. I never thought of that. So they're there permanently. And our part of history, we won't lose a part of our history, because once, as you know, once they're gone, they're gone. There's no coming back.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. The reason I mention about wisteria hearse is that in section 2, subsection 2, it says the proposed timeline for the installation of the upper lunette of the mural for display at Wisteria Hearst Museum would be in February of 2023, and this mural would be on display for the public for a period of 1 year. So that's where that sentence certainly suggests that it's going to Wisteria Hearst starting in February of 2023. Is that not the case?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not, or yes, it won't?
Yes, that's the plan. I'm just jumping in.
Oh, okay. So they are going to Wisteria Hearst.
Yes, the lunette, the one lunette will be part of an exhibition.
Okay.
Yeah. The rest of will remain in storage.
Okay, perfect. So then if we get to the storage section, basically just so I understand the agreement, it says that essentially after they're restored, that they're going to stay in Mr. Green's studios for a period of 1 year, and then after that, MIFA is responsible for the safe storage in perpetuity unless the city wants to take them on a permanent loan. Is that right, Don?
Yes, I mean, that's the understanding. So the idea is, of course, they're going to go back into the Victory.
Of course. That's the desired, right.
And if that doesn't happen, MIFA takes the responsibility to keep them in safe storage with the idea that they will be given on permanent loan to the city and to work with the city to find a place, safe place for them. But MIFA takes the responsibility for the storage, for the safe storage, which would be at Evergreen and under their supervision.
Okay. And obviously, if it stays with Mr. Green, then MIFA will cover those costs. But if we take it on permanent loan, hopefully we will find a suitable location in the city for it to go, and we'll take those responsibilities. And obviously, it speaks to there would be an additional agreement at some later date if that happens. Obviously, that would be around insuring these things, and I'm sure and otherwise, and what we're responsible to do. Okay, I think I got it. I think I understand the term. So thank you for that clarification. I appreciate you preserving these pieces on behalf of Holyoke history.
Chair recognizes Councilor Rivera.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I guess my question, more or less, not really a question. It's more about process, I guess. More than likely, MIFA's not going to be up and running within the next 5 years, I don't think. And if it is, then awesome. That's great. Let's get it running. Let's get it rocking. But I think that another step for either you guys or the city is to find or start the processes to try to apply either to CPA or somewhere else for funding to try to store the stuff, at least on the city side. If we decide to store it somewhere, we need to have the actual equipment needed and the actual environment to be able to store it. Because you said that it would be at, well, not you, the contract says it'll be at Wisteria Museum for a year, then it'll be at the Evergreen Studios for about a year and some change, then you guys would store it. Eventually, it sounds like it's gonna come into the hands of the city for us to store them and pretty much show them off and display them until Victory Theater is up and running. So I guess my question is there a plan for MIFA, probably more than likely, to partner with the city to try to apply or find funding to help with that process when we get to that step? Because it sounds like we're more than likely going to get to that step.
Okay, I would like to answer to that, speak to that point. Thank you. The main point is, well, I personally, as you know, and you know from everything that's happening, we are really working to get the victory open. So I am not, I only entertain the possibility that it wouldn't be open, I think, sooner than in 5 years. But regardless, if that were to be the case, MIFA would continue to work with the city. We would continue to store the murals in the proper place. They'd most likely stay with Evergreen Associates until the next phase could be found where they can either be displayed in the city or, until that happens. I mean, I have to feel, and I think everybody would feel that the murals will be safely stored, and if they don't go back to the Victory, they will go someplace else. And MIFA will certainly work with the city to find the appropriate place, and MIFA will certainly take responsibility for the storage of the murals to that point where another arrangement would then be made.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah, so I guess for me, it's just, if 5 years comes and nothing has been done with anything of the murals, I mean, it would be nice to be able to actually put them on display.
Yes.
I just don't know when is the year, right? When is it 5? Is it 7? Is it 10? Is it 15? It just would be nice to be able to have them, who knows, like prepare the City Hall ballroom in a way so that we can display them up there until Victory comes up. But that's just future.
I think, Councilman, that we would know in enough time to really prepare that I hope unlikely eventuality.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Tallman.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Don, for explaining that to us, and Michael for the explanation. And I'm glad the CPA came back to us for this very important project to let us know there's some changes being made. And the history of these murals is important. We don't want to lose it, as Michael said. These are very important to the city of Holyoke, and I'm sure we'll find the spot for them when Mr. Green is done with them in the city in some location where they'll be in a controlled environment where they won't get damaged, and for the future of the people to see. And I'm looking forward to February if they do get that one Lynette mural up in the museum, maybe have some kind of a grand opening to see that mural up there at Wisteriahurst. I think is important for the citizens to know that and to see that, because some of us remember those murals at the Victory, and we used to go to our movies there back in the 60s and the 70s to see some great shows down there. I know, Izzy, you weren't around then, I know, but some of us were, okay? Thank you.
But it wasn't built as a movie theater, as Mr. Sanders has told us so many times. This is vaudeville at its best, and I'm looking forward to the live entertainment that's going to be coming up in that building. Does anybody know an appraised value for each of these murals once restored? Anybody got a rough idea what they're worth?
It's very interesting. I'll speak to that point. We have been doing some research on it, but we haven't come up with a definitive amount to say, because Maragliati's works are all still affixed to their murals that are in the places that they were painted for. So nobody has actually said, okay, well, if you take that down, here's what we buy it for, etc. So we don't have that information for that reason.
We're kind of looking for equity, but I also really thought Mike Falsetti was going to say priceless.
Point.
They are.
They are.
Can't get them back.
They are.
They are.
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion? Councilor Paula.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to see if we can clarify maybe, do we know how far along we are with the MIFA? I mean, are we 30% there? Are we 50% there? Is there like a concrete timeline other than hypotheticals? Thank you.
Mr. Sanders, it's him, right?
Yes, I'm happy to give an update. We continue to raise monies for the project. We are looking at really our goal is to put shovel in the ground in June and have a soft opening or whatever kind of opening it can be on December 31st of 2024. Now, the Hampshire Gazette asked me this question, and actually the new editor there said, obviously, when you give an answer, we know that this is dependent upon fundraising. We understand that, but we actually like to be inspired by what you're hoping to do and by what this very large group of people now that have gotten even larger around making sure that the theater opens. And so that is the date that I have in both my waking and sleeping dreams. I should also say that the theme of the murals, I have to say this, is it's victory. It's the victory of light over darkness.
I like that.
Yeah, if I might, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Jordan?
I'll be a little more pointed than perhaps Councilor Puello. Don, just enlighten us, because it's been a little while since we had an update. And I did read in the news that the mayor, he's very gracious. He gave another $2 million. Where are we at as like the bill to do this is X, and you're at what percent of the goal are you? Do you have the money pretty close to lined up? It might be, since we're on the topic, it might be nice just to know that.
Sure, I'm happy to give you the most recent update. And I do have to preface it with the fact that COVID really did increase the cost of construction by about 8 to 11%. I mean, our contractors are saying it may come down, but to date, and we have since March raised an additional $7.3 million towards the project. At the moment, we are looking at having raised $38,300,000 towards a project that we are now seeing as costing $61 million. So we are, if you do the math, we're in the 60% of completion. But we are also, starting last March, engaged in a major, highly structured and professionally overseen capital campaign to close that gap. And that's why I'm feeling that we are going to do that.
Wow, so impressive. Boy, I mean, even those numbers are way larger than, the ones that we had heard about years ago. It just seems like, boy, the bill keeps getting bigger, and we do appreciate your work, Don. It's amazing. Because am I crazy, or do I remember the numbers were like in the 20 million something range?
In 2009, the bill was $28 million.
I thought so. Yeah, exactly.
So,
anyways, I give you a lot of credit. You're right on it, and very optimistic, considering you're talking about potential shovels in 6 or 7 months from now, and you've got a gap of $23 million. So whatever we can help you do to get the word out, we're happy to do, because you've got a tall order there.
Gratefully accepted. I accept your offer.
Pass the basket. Let's pass the basket.
Well, you have a tall order there, Don. So keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say,
Mayor
the
Garcia.
saving of these, the kind of creativity that everybody has shown in the CPA and the goodwill of everybody, Wisteria Hearst and everybody, Evergreen, has just been just a wonderful experience. And I think everybody in the city should feel very gratified by this solution to the survival of the murals. That's what's important.
Well said. Mayor Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to clarify, because, I know the news reports what they report. Our commitment to the project was $2 million through the process. So MIFA knows that they still have to go through the process and work together with the community, as well as members of the council, folks that participate in offering recommendations in that ARPA process to gain that support and cross the finish line. So the announcement was my commitment to work with the community and the government colleagues to support this project. But there's no check that was given to MIFA for $2 million at this stage in the process.
Understood. Well appreciated. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Chair?
I'll make a motion that we approve it to the extent I'm assuming we need to approve this change of use?
Yes, CPA, and I believe when you do this, Megan, yourself, you go through, the law department, the auditor to make sure, but we appreciate that. You always come back to us, even with minor, major, and changes to all the projects. So we're adopting a change to the project, and I think allowing, the changes to go forth because it was very detailed when it originally came to us. Any further discussion? Motion to adopt?
So moved.
Roll call. Counselor Tallman?
Yes.
Counselor Jordan?
Yes.
Counselor Powell? Counselor Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Counselor McGivern, yes. Passes 5-0. Thank you, everybody. This will go to the City Council next Tuesday. We have two more CPA items. One's going to be, I think, quick, and then the other one is just a preliminary discussion, but if everybody can hang on for a minute.
Motion to take item number 11 off the table.
Motion made, second to take item 11 off the table. All those in favor? Any opposed? This comes under our liaison, Councilor Izzy Rivera, that the Honorable City Council approve an increased funding request of $3,000 to the Mysterious Museum for their painting restoration project. Originally, Wisteria Hearst applied for and was granted a grant of $125,000 from the CPA project, and the rising cost and materials across the nation of looking for what is now an additional $3,000. This was referred out once from committee. It's was placed back in committee. A request has gone out to the law department to talk about maintenance cost, to talk about historic preservation, and to make sure that we're all on the same page before we take our final vote. I asked the City Council to put it back in committee so that we could get this discussion before we take our final vote and be able to, it's important, I think, to make sure the CPA gets the clear understanding from all parties. So with that in mind, Kathleen Dagan is our attorney, our assistant city solicitor from the law department, I know, is taking the lead. I've been in, again, some contact with Megan McGrath Smith and Megan Seller from the Wisterias about the importance of a good discussion taking place on their levels with the law department. And Kathleen, with that said, can you update us where we are on that?
Yes, I can. I had a brief discussion with the director of Wisteria Hearst because I had some factual questions. She's sending to me all of the information that she has on the project as a whole. And CPC Director Megan McGrath sent me an email asking that we could meet, myself, herself, and the director of the Wisteria Hearst, to discuss this. And it's my thinking that we're going to meet next week. So I respect the request that this body table this discussion so that I can talk at greater length with both Megans.
Thank you. And just so the committee knows and the public knows, I was copied on that email. That's why I led into your remarks. And I got anybody who wants to see the copy of those emails from both Megans and yourself. I appreciate it. Before we make a motion, is there any discussion or any questions? I think the questions are laid on the table, and I think it's just hearing back from everybody before we make our final vote.
And the only thing I would say, Mr. Chairman, is it's just a question of what pot of money we used. I mean, everybody's on board to do the work. The question is it CPA eligible or not CPA eligible? If it's not CPA eligible, we're going to get the Wisteria Hearst painted one way or the other. It's just a question of what pot of gold we use. So that's I appreciate the due diligence.
On a side note, we want those sidewalk and wall fixed so the sidewalk gets opened up again. But
absolutely,
those are editorial comments, right, Councilor Tallman?
They're working on it. I think I saw a dump truck or pickup truck there last week. So.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, motion to table.
Motion made second to table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call. Councilor Tallman.
Yes.
Counselor Jordan?
Yes.
Counselor Powell? Counselor Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
Counselor McGivern, yes. It's laid on the table to allow the discussion as explained by our Assistant City Solicitor to go forward. Last one.
Motion to take item number 12 off the
Second,
table.
take item 12 off the table for discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Introduced by Counselor Bacon, Counselor Pello. This is an order to city solicitor draft a ballot question for the next eligible election for voters to decide if the CPA tax should be reduced from 1.5% to 0.5% in light of the current financial hardships of our taxpayers. This was received by the full city council and referred to the finance committee at our last meeting. I tried to let everybody know, but the purpose of this on the agenda tonight is a preliminary discussion to make sure we're going in the same direction, especially with the law department and language, and with questions about the legitimacy of this type of ballot question going forward. You know, is it binding, non-binding, stuff like that. But I just got a little housekeeping. Counselor Bacon apologizes. Counselor Bacon had a family commitment tonight. She didn't think I'd have this on the agenda so quick, but, you know, I said, Linda, don't worry. It's just preliminary, and we know, you know, she's one of the co-sponsors, our second co-sponsor, and Counselor Bacon said Will certainly, Paula certainly can speak for her and speak for the purpose as makers of the order for this. But it's now owned by the full city council, and we just like to get a little discussion going here about, you know, to the law department, can we do this? And certainly talk about, you know, I've always believed if you're going to do any government by ballot questions, that the ballot question needs to be concise, it needs to be specific to what the yes or no means, and you need to have people on both sides of the question educating the public as to what a yes and what a no means to this. And I also would love to hear, Mike, after this, I'm done. I'd love to hear from the CPA a little historic review of some of the most wonderful projects that have come out of your folks' committee. It's been incredible, and about the funding that comes into it. You know, is it adequate with what the CPA in terms of what your requests have been, what your future requests might be? And does it make sense to reduce it at this point? But that's not an answer I'm looking for this evening, but maybe the CPA could weigh in on this themselves as a body. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. You guys come now?
Mr. Chairman, are you requesting an opinion right now?
No, well, if you're in favor of it, if you could just convey it back to the full CPA body, you know, the full board, I think that's enough at this point, if you guys want to weigh in.
Sure. I would have to say, just judge us by our work and what we do with the money that has been raised and the various projects that we funded. Just look at our work, whether it's the murals, whether it's Lady Liberty, restoration of the City Hall, stained glass windows, the Blue Tech woods that we've done, and now the beginning the process of the substantial rehabilitation of Scotts Tower area. There's a bunch more that I can take, but those are some of the outstanding ones. So I just ask the people of Holyoke, it's your money, and we're very cognizant of that. And just look at our work and what we've done with it, and the very careful manner that we've spent it, and how we try to judge its immediate and long-term effects and the benefits it has for the city. The murals are just an example of it. If those murals should go, well, they're gone. And part of our history goes with it. So, Mr. Chairman, I would just say I would hope things stay the way they are. Is it enough? No, it'll never be enough, but it's adequate given the economic conditions that we're in. It's adequate, and we'll have to live within our budget, as you folks do. But I say, look at the CPA website and look at the projects we funded, and you be the judge yourself, Mr. Chairman, and your committee, city council members, and look at what we've done and what we are going to be doing in the future. And I think we spent the money in areas that it's most needed, and something that we all can be proud of. That, quite frankly, wouldn't get done. Just off the top of my head, to Washington Memorial Building. which was in very attractive building whatsoever because of the wear and tear on the surface. Well, it's been washed and now it looks like a brand new building. That's just one of the several that I've mentioned. So I would say, Mr. Chairman, just judge us by our work.
Thank you. Before I recognize the co-sponsor and the committee members here, with the committee's permission, our liaison to CPA, Councilor Rivera, you want to weigh in?
Yeah, real quick. I'm not gonna repeat what Mr. Falsetti said because Mr. Falsetti kind of he hit the nail on the head. I also want to give Mr. Falsetti a shout out for his service to the city for years. He was my baseball coach when I was my basketball coach when I was in 4th grade. So to be on the CPA council with my former 4th grade basketball coach at Sacred Heart was pretty cool. But to just continue on what you said, Mr. McGivern, with regards to the ballot question being simple, I agree with that piece, right? And then for me, it's there's a lot kind of incorporated into the question the way it's formed now. I would like to see it just be as simple as, do we want to continue with CPA, yes or no? That way, when people go in, it's either yes, you want CPA, no, you don't want CPA anymore. Just all the number stuff and the long verbiage will probably confuse people, but that can be for further discussion later on in the future.
Thank you. And that's just the way I feel about ballot questions. But, and like I said, the other part is, you need information about what a yes means and information about what a no means. Councilor Jordan?
You sure? Oh, okay. First of all, I guess, I think we should look to get the wording from the ballot question from the law department from whatever number of years ago, because I think it was 5 years ago this was put on the ballot. If, as a friendly suggestion to the makers, they may want to consider getting that wording, and you would probably want to do something to replicate that. Kevin, I like the CPA. I don't have a problem with it at all. I pay it, and I pay a pretty considerable CPA tax, by the way. To me, it's a great cause. I think the committee's doing, Megan and Mike and everybody else, Izzy, the other people on the committee are doing great work, and I like it. So, I personally would vote to keep it, barring hearing something else. But on the other hand, as a general rule, and I took a lot of heat for this when the council put it on the ballot, because I was asked by a number of people, don't put it on the ballot, make them go get the signatures and blah, blah, blah. I voted to put it on the ballot because I feel the public should have a right to vote on it. And so I voted to put it on the ballot. I want to say it was around 2017. And I think the state law says you are allowed to revisit it every 5 years or something like this. So this is probably some of the reason this is coming up now. On the other hand, assuming the questioning is fair, I probably would vote to put it on the ballot again because it's not my opinion, it's the public's money. So just for the same reasons that I voted to put it on the ballot the first time, if the public wants to get rid of it, that's their right. It's not what I only have one vote out of 26,000 votes in the city. Not they get to pick to do what they want with their money. I did have a couple technical questions though, which is relative to the thing. When this was first discussed years ago, one of the things, and again, we're not going to settle all this tonight, but some of the research is it adjustable, the amount of the exemption? One of the things that was explained that does protect homeowners is the fact, and business people too, is the first 100,000 of your assessment is exempt from the CPA. Now, of course, everybody knows what's happened to everybody's property values in the last 5-6 years. They've gone like bananas. So now a lot of people are paying a lot more for the CPA than they were before, because originally they were like, oh, don't worry about it. It's like $20 a year, no big deal. And I'm wondering if that's still the case, because the amount obviously over 100,000 is now a lot more than what it was then, because everybody's home is assessed. Are we allowed to inflation adjust the 100,000? I'd like to see if maybe the law department or the CPA could do that. Maybe that's something we could consider. And then the other thing, obviously, is one of the big sell points at the time was, oh, look at how much the mall's going to pay. You know, they're going to be paying so much. And it turns out, of course, subsequent to all of this, their assessment got cut in half since this was adopted. So the amount that the mall is paying, I think at one point they were slated to pay like $100,000 and a year of the actual total amount raised, and now it's like half that. So, you know, that is sort of an interesting. So there is more of the money. We're raising more money, but it's more off homeowners than it was off the original sort of numbers. It might be helpful, maybe the CPA committee could educate the city council and us to kind of revisit, like, how is this really working? You know, like how much is the average now? You know, it's been 5 or 6 years. Maybe look at what's going on. But like I said, I like the work that they're doing. Me personally, you know, I don't have a problem with it. But, you know, again, I've generally deferred to the citizens to make their own decisions. So everybody has their own wallet and pocketbook that they have to manage. So that's the way I look at it, you know, majority rules. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Pello.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just to, I mean, I don't want to repeat everything that's already been said, but just to, you know, clarify a certain point, I do appreciate the way that Councilor Bacon wrote the order, and this can be talked about at a later point, but I think this is a pretty nice compromise as to, I mean, the question could have been, do we keep it, yes or no? But I think as we've heard tonight, you know, some people, we appreciate all the work that CPA has done, so the question is, do we reduce it to kind of provide that, you know, relief for homeowners? But, yeah, I think the question is pretty self-explanatory, and I don't think it should be too controversial. Thank you.
Councilor Tomlin.
Yeah, I just state that I'm also for the CPA and what it's done over the years, the last 5 years. I voted to put this on the ballot, and I would, you know, vote again to put it on the ballot. Everybody has their own opinion, and it's an order, I think, that, you know, with the tax rate and people paying a little bit more in taxes, the gas, electric, everything is going up. But, you know, the funding with the dollars that we do give with them, like I said, I have no problem paying the tax, the CPA tax, and there's a lot of things that are done that the city has accomplished as far as playgrounds and buildings and murals and build, you know, all throughout the city that has helped almost every area of the city with this money that we probably wouldn't be able to do. And I know in the beginning, I'd like to get some numbers on how much is actually taken in every year. And I know in the beginning that the state was only going to put so much in, but I think it went way down. And then I think recently it went up a little bit more, what the state is funding. I'd like to get that number if Michael could get that to us, what the state is kicking in now.
Yeah,
if you have that today, yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I can get that information. I'll contact Megan and get our economic forecast for the upcoming fiscal year. We've hired a new accountant who's a pretty sharp fellow, and although the state awards are going to vary a little bit because it's a transition from one governorship to another, and Governor Baker did include an additional funds at kind of the last minute, so to speak, that have to make their way through the process of being awarded. Yeah, so I'm sure Megan and Amy, in consultation with our new accountant, can get those our proposed budget, how much we think we're going to take in, how much the state's going to contribute, what will the total budget be for the coming fiscal year. Sure, I mean, and it's a legitimate concern that you're proposing that, well, our taxes went up, can't we cut the rate of the CPA because of the increase? That's a question, I think, basically that the city council, we can provide you the information, but I think it's a legitimate concern of the city council. Yes, because you represent the citizens.
Thank you. And just my 2 cents, I think Councilor Jordan said it all when he said, you know, you need to put these type of questions to the voters, and that's what we did. I voted in favor of putting the CPA ballot question on the first time. I have no regrets. I did have concerns back then, and also expectations. Well, when the voters sent their message, they sent it loud and clear. This has some good potential to it, and they asked the city to go forward with it. So our expectations then went to the CPA once that was formed. those expectations, Michael, and please tell the entire group, have been met 2 times over. What this group, you folks have done is incredible. You just highlighted some of the projects that came through us that do come back to us for our final vote. And I know the expectations and your financial forecast is all part of what you're looking forward to doing in the next year or 2. But thank you for your hard work, and please tell everybody you serve with that we thank them for their hard work. And I think that the voters and residents of this city, are still in favor of this because they see, a little bit of their money going to good use, multiplying with a little bit of help from the state and being well used by the CPA group themselves. And I appreciate that. That's why to the law department, I don't know if we're ready to draft language, but I think the drafting of the language is important. It needs to be as close as possible to a concise yes or no question that a voter can easily define what a yes means and what a no means. Percentages are important. Tax, reducing your obligation as it is a form of a tax, is part of this. But we don't need a question that sends a hidden message to the voters. The voters are pretty smart themselves, so let's face it, they put all of us here.
That's right. They must be pretty smart.
I will never
They
second
put us
guess
here,
that
right?
over the years, But we just need to give them the opportunity. And in the meantime, Mike, thank you, and we'll get as much information through the CPA. We'll get as much information through Taxpayers Association, through whoever wants to chime in and say, why a yes is good, why a no is good. Mayor Garcia, you've been awful quiet on this one. You saving your guns for the future, or?
Hey, look, that's the politics. That's you guys. You give me the resources, and we'll execute and manage.
Okay.
Could we actually, on our list of info, maybe Mike or Megan or somebody, how much has been raised each of the years? Because like 1.5% 5 or 6 years ago might have been $400,000. But now it's $700,000, the same 1.5%, because the home assessments and the total valuation went up. Is that true or not true? It might be helpful just to kind of understand that a little better.
Yes, Counselor, for example, what would be the rates, what was our budgets for the last 3 years? I guess is what you're asking me.
Well, maybe even, it's only been around for like 5 years. So if you could give us when it started to now, that would be helpful, Mike.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Kev, this is Councilor Rivera. Just the new assessments and all the new rates, like the CPA won't see any of the impact of that to the next fiscal year because that's all new in a sense. So whatever we're functioning on, we're functioning on what was rated before. But you are right that over the past 5 years, the housing prices have increased. So, like, it would be good to get those numbers just to see how much it's increased little by little.
Right, yeah, so we can kind of understand, like, how much is 1.5%? Is it growing? Because the pot's growing, that type of thing. Okay.
No, that makes sense. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. All right.
All set.
Any further discussion? I think so. I think we got, a very good first round discussion, the ideas, and we all get some thoughts together. Mike, I'll get the auditor to work with Megan too about a lot of that stuff, and she'll help Megan put those numbers together, and I'm sure she can do an historic overview. And if the CPA can do us an historic overview of the projects, that'd be great too. But I think our administrative assistant, I hate to put work on Jeffrey's shoulders, but he just never ceases to amaze me. Will be able to help us to put some of this package together, and down the line, we'll be able to put together a good question with all the right information for both sides of that question. Anything else from anybody? Because I'm getting hungry. Motion to table.
Second.
Roll call. Councilor Tallman?
Yes.
Councilor Jordan?
Yes.
Councilor Powell? Councilor Juan Anderson Burgos?
Yes.
And Councilor McGivern, yes. It lays on the table. Thank you, everybody. Next Tuesday is when all the committee reports will be in front of the City Council. Appreciate your time, especially to our law department and to Mike Falsetti for staying up late with us. Mayor Garcia, we will always thank you, but like you said, it's politics.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
we can do this without a roll call because we already did it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
See you later.
Hey.